People in Yugoslavia didn't know much about finances and banking. People had only vague idea about stocks, investing. The totalitarian regime convinced Yugoslavians to believe in what journalists say. When journalists praise certain things, readers were ready to believe every word. During 1990s, Yugoslavians were perfect targets for scammers. A huge majority of people had never heard of Ponzi scheme or pyramidal scheme, and Yugoslavians had decent life savings. In 1991, Yugoslavia was 24th country in the world based on GDP. What is Ponzi scheme? A Ponzi scheme is a form of fraud that pays profits to earlier investors with funds from more recent investors. A scheme was named after Italian businessman Ponzi, who used it during 1920s. But Ponzi wasn't the one to invent the scheme. The scheme was popular in the 19th century, long before Ponzi was born. A Ponzi scheme can operate as long as there are new investors, and as long as the old investors do not demand full repayment. A pyramid scheme is slightly different from Ponzi scheme. In pyramid scheme, a person has to recruit new participants in order to get repaid. In Yugoslavia, the scheme was named Piramidalna banka. This translates as pyramid bank. Pyramid bank operates like Ponzi scheme, but it's a bank. People were giving their money to the banks believing it would be safe investment. How did it start in Yugoslavia? Two people appeared suddenly as banking superstars. They became media darlings and objects of public adoration. Their names were Dafina Milanovic and Jezdimir Vasiljevic. They didn't work together, but were often mentioned in the same sentences. Today they are known as Dafina and Jezda. They are remembered in extremely negative light. Almost every family in Yugoslavia was affected by these schemes. Only those with zero savings were spared. What happened? We shall start with Dafina because she was more present in the media. Dafina was born in 1948 in Serbia. She worked as accountant. In the 1970s, she worked for swimming club Mornar. In 1979, she was sentenced to 11 months in prison for taking the money from the club. She never served the time, and instead she was given 4 years parole. Surprisingly, Dafina continued working as accountant for different companies. In 1988, Dafina was trialed for the same type of crime. She spent 8 months behind the bars during the trial. She was convicted to 2.5 years, but she never went to prison. Did she have friends at high places? Thanks to bribes, cronyism, and nepotism, people avoided going to prison even after they were sentenced. There was no war in 1988, and Dafina should have been jailed. There is no innocent explanation for Dafina remaining free. In October 1991, Dafina opened Dafimen Bank. She became celebrity overnight. Dafina was genius expert for banking. She was going to make everyone rich. Only fools didn't invest with her because it was a safe way to double your money. Ponzi schemes are usually harder to notice. People like Madoff promise reasonable monthly returns. I saw one documentary about Madoff, and one of his victims said she was given 12% return per year. But Dafina and Jezda offered outrageous monthly returns. Clients were given whopping 160% per month on dinars and 10 to 15% on foreign currencies. The official narrative was that Dafina knew where to invest the money. She was called Srpska majka, English Serbian mother, because she was going to take such a good care of her clients like a mother would. Dafina was married and had 3 children, 2 daughters and a son. On 2nd July 1992, Dafina's husband and 2 children died in a car accident in Hungary. The remaining daughter wasn't in the car. Only weeks after the accident, Dafina gave a TV interview. She wore a pink dress and talked as if nothing happened. Some people became suspicious about this car accident. Was it staged? Did they fake their deaths? Mother who loses 2 children should look devastated, and Dafina appeared to be fine. What was her family doing in Hungary? Yugoslavia was under UN sanctions since April 1992. It was almost impossible to get a visa and leave the country. Years later, Dafina would imply that her family was murdered to silence her. She claimed that she was only the face of Document Bank. According to Dafina, people who made decisions were Borislav Tanacković and Slobodan Milošević. Borislav Tanacković was banking governor. Banking governor in Yugoslavia was a person who oversees all the banks. Banks have to ask governor if they want to merge, get license, or do anything important. Dafina claimed that she could do nothing without Atanackovic's blessing. According to Dafina, Atanacković knew everything about the Ponzi scheme. But Atanacković was working for Serbian President Milošević. No, I didn't make a mistake about Milošević being president of Serbia. He became president of Yugoslavia only in 1997. While Document Bank existed, Milošević was president of Serbia. Before he joined politics, Milošević worked in a bank. Theories say that Milošević used Document Bank as his piggy bank. Money from Document Bank financed paramilitary units, politicians, and smuggling operations. Dafina claimed she didn't take 1 cent from the bank. Considering her past misdeeds, this is hard to believe. However, she might have been used as a scapegoat. It is suspicious how Yugoslav journalists knew nothing about Dafina's criminal past. No one recognized her or remembered her 1979 and 1988 trials. In 1991 to 1993, everyone was talking about Dafina and Jezda. Dafina wasn't keeping a low profile. Her name and pictures were everywhere. Everyone was promoting Dafina and Document Bank. How could financial experts remain mum when they heard about 160% monthly return? I do believe Dafina had political support behind her. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to set up such publicized Ponzi scheme. But Atanacković was banking governor only between July and October 1993. Document Bank went bankrupt on 1st May 1993. Clients couldn't withdraw their money. Dafina claimed that Atanacković ordered Document Bank to pay out important clients. Interesting fact, most Serbian newspapers name Atanacković as Borislav, but his name on official government website is Borisav, not Borislav. This is evidence how obscure character he was. One newspaper mentioned that Atanacković is deceased. I have no idea how or when he died. Document Bank worked roughly for 20 months. It had 150,000 or 163,000 clients according to some sources. How much money was taken? According to some estimations, we're talking about $500 million or euros. One newspaper claimed that money was taken out of the country. According to one article, the money is hidden in a Swiss bank. Dafina was arrested in Germany in 2002. How is this possible? In July 1983, Dafina tried to leave the country and her passport was taken. Newspapers don't say what happened to Dafina between July 1993 and 2002. Did she leave Yugoslavia legally? Who gave her passport back? How and when was she allowed to cross the border? Dafina's trial began in 2003. It was postponed several times due to her illness. Dafina was allowed to leave the country to get treatment in foreign countries. Dafina died in 2008 in Belgrade from cancer. She was 60 years old. Good thing is that she died in Serbia, or people would claim she faked her own death. Dafina died without being sentenced for Document Bank scheme. It remains unclear how many important people were involved in Document Bank fraud. Milosevic died in 2006. National Bank of Serbia agreed to pay off clients of Dafimen Bank. Their deadline was 2016. Today, the story about Dafina and Dafimen Bank is considered finished. Many rumors remain. One tabloid claimed that Dafina's husband had business dealings with Tudjman, first Croatian president. Another rumor claims that money from Dafimen Bank was given to Croats in exchange for plots of land in Vienna. Croats supposedly used this money to buy weapons. This would mean that Serbs paid for weapons used against Serbs. Nothing sounds too crazy for the Balkans. Now it's time to say a few words about Jezdimir Vasiljevic. Like Dafina, Jezdimir was born in Serbia in 1948. Yugoslav public met him as Gazda Jezda in early 1990s. Gazda Jezda translates as the boss Jezda. Jezda is nickname for Jezdimir, which can translate as riding peace. There were many rumors about Jezda's early years. Allegedly, he left Yugoslavia in his early 20s. He lived in many countries like Canada, USA, Australia, Germany. In 1990, Jezda opened company Jugoskandik in Serbia. Jugoskandik imported foreign tech and sold it for vast profit. One story says Jezda imported TVs from Hong Kong for 300 Deutschmarks and sold them for 900 Deutschmarks. In 1992, Jezda established the Jugoskandik Savings Bank. Jugoskandik was registered in Montenegro but operated in Serbia. Jezda had many business dealings in Montenegro. He was given 10% monthly return in foreign currencies. Jezda established company Jugoskandik Petrol and sold oil. The money from oil business was given to the banking clients. Jezda also got military equipment for Yugoslav army. We are talking about helmets, bulletproof vests, and not actual weapons. There were rumors that Jezda had special agreement with the state. In 1992, Jezda unsuccessfully ran for president of Serbia. I see this as publicity stunt. In Montenegro, Jezda leased small St. Stefan Island. On the island, he sponsored the 1992 chess match between Bobby Fischer and Boris Spassky. Yugoslavia was under UN sanctions and Fischer had legal troubles for playing the match. Jugoskandik used the bypass sanctions and import oil via Montenegrin seaports. Jugoskandik controlled oil sales in Yugoslavia. Jezda built his image as the boss by giving 1 million Deutschmarks to Children's Hospital in Belgrade. In January 1993, Jugoskandik rose monthly returns from 10% to 14%. During night 7 to 8 March 1993, Jezda left Serbia in his car and went to Hungary. He declared that he didn't run away and that he was going to fight against criminal activities by the state. Again, we're not sure how he was able to cross the border. Jugoskandik continued to work until September 1993. Jezda lived in several different countries. There are speculations that he was forced to leave Yugoslavia because of the threats. He was deported to Serbia in 2001, but he skipped the bail and ran. In 2010, he was deported to Serbia again. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison and he served 4.5 years. After he was released, Jezda entered reality show Pharma. Viewers had very negative reactions and he was removed from the show. It is believed that Jezda lives in Germany. He blames Montenegrin authorities for the crush of his businesses. Jezda claims that Montenegro confiscated 62,000 tons of his oil, and that this caused his bank to go out of business. Jezda had 80,000 clients, and it is not known how much money was lost. Due to terrible experience with Dafimen Bank and Jugoskandik, many Serbs were reluctant to put money in the banks. It took decades for banks to regain some of the clients' trust. Neither Dafina nor Jezda could run their schemes without Yugoslav politicians on their side. Milosevic and his cronies were never held accountable for this Ponzi scheme. Many of his cronies had died, so investigation would be useless. New statute of limitations for such crimes is 20 years. There is no justice for the victims of the Ponzi schemes in Yugoslavia. One could blame the victims for being naive or greedy. But they were lied to by the institutions that should protect them. We'll never know if Serbian mother and the boss were pawns or masterminds. But we learned one valuable lesson: never trust the banks.